So if you're watching this video, you obviously read the title of said video, Can You Make $10,000 with $100,000 invested? And the reason that I'm recording this video answering this question is I received a question, it was on Facebook from Fernando. Fernando lives in Brazil and he is considering moving to the United States. I think he said actually California is where he was going to be moving. Or he was considering moving, and he wanted to know if he has $100,000, could he expect to make $10,000 monthly using that $100,000 to flip cars? And first question would be, how do you intend on flipping? So do you intend on flipping professionally? I flip professionally. Actually, I don't have my phone on me. I just finished actually up at an auction not like 5 minutes ago. I only bought one vehicle. It's an online auction and I bought a car. It'll be delivered to me at my dealership. My mechanic will go through it. I have someone that is there right now. It's the middle of the day. Actually, I'm walking around currently to check to see if I need to put out any salt. We had some snow here recently. That's actually super rare for North Carolina to get the amount that we got. But I'm able to be home 2 days a week. I keep my daughter, she's 18 months. So doing it professionally like I do, I have a lot of overhead. So if overhead comes into play, you are looking at needing to generate more revenue with that $100,000. But we're just going to use simple numbers. We're not going to factor in overhead with these numbers. If you have $100,000, let's say you buy 10 $10,000 cars. Not every car I buy is $10,000. The car I just bought actually was a 2017 Ford Expedition Limited four-wheel drive. It has, I mean, it's like 160 something thousand miles, I think, but I bought it for $8,100. I would expect to sell this for probably close to 12. You know, it's going to need some detailing mechanically. Hopefully it's okay, but those are numbers. So there's a spread there. I should be able to make at least $2,000 on this vehicle after I factor in transportation getting it to me, my mechanic going through it, the cost that I pay, you know, my salesperson, there's a commission there that I'm paying. So these are all things you need to factor in. We're going to use a $10,000 car. We're going to buy 10 of those. If we can sell 5 of those a month and we make $2,000 profit on each one, that's $10,000. Now, that is obviously oversimplifying how much money you will generate, because you're going to pay more for some cars, you're going to pay less for other cars. Are you doing this out of your driveway? It's possible to do that. Now, selling 5 cars a month out of your driveway is a little more difficult because of some state regulations. In North Carolina, I'm allowed to sell, if I don't have a dealer's license, I think 6 cars a year if you were titling each car. So if you're not keeping the titles open, which is technically not legal, it's a gray area in some instances, depending on for what reason you're selling a car. But by the books, you're allowed to sell 6 vehicles. You're not allowed, technically, I think it's written that you're not allowed to buy vehicles and sell them for profit, which a few years ago, when new cars were actually gaining value because of the shortage of COVID, that kind of went out the window because everyone, not everyone, a lot of people were buying vehicles, certain vehicles. You see this with like the Tesla Cybertruck, certain specialty cars, people were buying them new and reselling them. Technically, that's illegal in some states. But if you could sell your 5 cars a month, you have 10 cars total, so you're cycling your inventory every 60 days, you would make $10,000 profit. Now, again, that's not taken into account overhead, that's not taken into account what you would have to pay other people on your behalf if you're doing it professionally. But to make, I guess, it more simple, yes, it's possible. You can definitely do it. There's just some caveats in how you would go about doing it. Now, do you need $10,000? That's another question. Depends on your lifestyle and how you choose to live. I have 4 kids, so I need to make a certain number. I live in North Carolina, so I wouldn't need to make as much as maybe you would if you move to California. You also need to take into account when you're moving somewhere, there's different states that have more lenient rules in regards to car flipping, and they have either tougher or more lenient rules in regards to what it takes to actually have a dealer's license. Some states are more lenient in that they don't require you to have as much of a physical presence. Some states require you to have more of a physical presence. North Carolina, you have to have a commercially zoned property that your city approves on the zoning side that it can be a dealership. So there's a town really close to me. It's called Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina. From what I understand, for the city to approve you to have a dealership in Fuquay-Varina, if you have not been grandfathered in and had some property before this occurred, you have to have at least an acre of property, and the city has to sign off on it. In some parts of the country, in some parts of North Carolina, that's not the case. But in North Carolina, you have to have at least 96 square feet as far as your building goes. The county zoning has to come out and say, yes, we will approve this. It can be a car dealership. So those aren't super stringent rules, but every town may have different guidelines that you have to follow on the zoning side and what they will approve. So these are all things to take into account as you're thinking $100,000, is this possible? It is, but it would be doing it on a shoestring budget. So it wouldn't necessarily be coming in and having a large organization or maybe having employees. This would be getting it done on your own and hustling to make that happen. Again, what it's going to cost to do that in California versus what it would cost to do it in Texas or North Carolina is going to be different than what it would cost to do it in somewhere like New York. You're going to have different cost of living in each of those areas. What you could do for $7,000 here, $10,000 probably wouldn't do it in California. So just keep that in mind where you plan to be. Be sure that you're not moving to a state that is going to have a ton of red tape that's going to make it more difficult. If all things being equal, North Carolina would be the same as California, would be the same as fill in the blank state. So hard to beat the weather in California, so I totally get why you might gravitate there. But there's a lot of other really awesome states that might not be as high on the cost of living side, and then maybe their requirements and the red tape you'd have to go through on the car dealership side, if that's the route that you decide to go, might be a little more lax. So to make it short, yes, definitely doable, not easy, but it is simple. And this is something that my dad and I have got into before. When I first started out, my dad and I started a dealership, and I made the mistake of saying that I thought running a car dealership was easy. And now what I meant was that the concept of it was simple. In car flipping, the concept is super simple. Now, that doesn't mean that it's easy, but it is simple. You buy a car for less money than you sell it for. You get a good deal. Your money is made on the front end. Your money is made when you buy the car. Buying the car correctly is the most important part of car flipping. It's the most important part of almost any business. Buying correctly to be able to sell for a profit. Car flipping is simple. The concept is simple. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy. And that's where my dad and I have gone back and forth. It took me several years to come to the, mental space to say, you know what, Dad, what I meant was, and he would agree with me, it is simple. It's not easy, but it is simple. So do I think you can do it? Yes, I definitely do. I definitely think you can. Learning to buy correctly is the most important part of this whole process. Now in Brazil, I don't know how the car market operates there. I don't know how easy it is to buy and sell. Here in North Carolina, in the United States, cars are everywhere. Deals are everywhere. It's a matter of how much time and effort you want to put into finding those deals and learning the market and understanding what you need to pay and what you can get for the, so like the vehicle I just bought, I'm gonna have probably, I don't know, $8,500 in it. And I mean, 9,000 maybe tops. And I believe that I can sell this car for $12,000. That leaves me $1,000. Maybe I only make $2,000. I've got a good profit margin. And that's what you want to pay attention to, is your profit margin. What you can sell it for, what you can buy it for. That money in the middle, that's where your business is. So keep that in mind. I'm gonna get off. I've got my oldest son finishing a run right now. So I'm gonna go inside and see how that went for him. But I hope that helped, Fernando, and I'll see you guys in the next video.